pre-independent India, in the British times, there were several organizations who worked for Shuddhi, and the four prominent organizations are the Arya Samaj, who actually gave this name Shuddhi, the Shuddhi Sabha, the Hindu Mahasabha, and the Masurashram, predominantly in Maharashtra. The epoch maker in the history of Shuddhi in modern times is Maharishi Dayanand Saraswati, the founder of the Arya Samaj. You can see his time period 1824 to 1883. Now, he did not prescribe any particular ritual for Shuddhi, as was later taken up by the Arya Samaj. But in 1877, he raised the issue of Shuddhi during his tour of Punjab. And in that same very tour, he stopped the conversion of Ram Sharan, who was getting converted to Christianity. Ram Sharan was a teacher in the mission school in Punjab. Now, in his lifetime, actually, Maharishi Dayanand Saraswati has personally performed Shuddhi of 3 converts, okay? But many Hindus actually changed their plans to convert because of the result of his speeches. And in fact, such was his influence that many European Christians actually became Hindus. So it is not just Shuddhi, it's actually people who were originally Christians, European Christians becoming Hindus under his influence. So I can say he's a path-breaking person in the history of Shuddhi. But the first martyrdom for Shuddhi in modern times, I gave you the example of martyrdom in Firoz Shah Tughlaq's time. But the first martyrdom for Shuddhi in modern times is by Swami Dayanand's biographer and prominent Arya Samaj leader who edited the journal Aryapathik, Pandit Lekhram. You can see his time period 1858 to 1897. Now, in that time in Punjab, there's a place called Qadian, and there was a person called Mirza Ghulam Ahmad who declared himself as a prophet. He founded the Ahmadiyya sect, which is persecuted by Muslims across the world today. So Mirza Ghulam Ahmad said that I am the avatar of Kalki, and therefore he used to fraudulently convert Hindus, or used to forcibly convert the Hindus. So what did Pandit Lekhram do? He challenged Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, and he fearlessly criticized Islam in public meetings. In Ladkana in Sindh, he performed the Shuddhi of hundreds of Hindus who had been forcibly converted to Islam. On the 5th of August 1894, he performed the Shuddhi of 2 Muslims in Sibi, which is a town in Baluchistan. And in March 1895, he prevented hundreds of Sikhs in Sialkot from becoming Muslims. As a result of his Shuddhi activities, he was killed by a Muslim fanatic who pretended, he went to him and said that I'm a Muslim who wants to come back to Hinduism. So he, had faith in him, and therefore he was killed. So this is the first martyrdom for Shuddhi in modern times by Pandit Lekhram. Soon after, in 1893, because the Arya Samaj had taken the initiative, the small steps were taken. The Shuddhi Sabha was founded in Lahore, and interestingly, the Sikhs and the Arya Samajis worked in tandem. And previously, the Shuddhis were used to be done on an individual basis, but now mass Shuddhis started taking place. So on 31st August 1896, the Lahore Shuddhi Sabha performed the Shuddhi of 200 members of the same family in Lahore. And the activities of the Lahore Shuddhi Sabha increased. Some branches started being founded in different parts of the country. So on 13 February 1923, the Bharatiya Shuddhi Sabha was formed in Agra under the leadership of Swami Shraddhanand. And by 1927, they had more than 35 branches in different provinces, and they actually converted hundreds and probably thousands of those Hindus who had been converted to Islam and Christianity. During the Khilafat movement, or the so-called non-cooperation movement in 1921, there was a ferocious Mopla jihad performed by Mopla Muslims in Kerala, in Malabar, in August 1921. 20,800 Hindus were massacred in a matter of a month, and more than 400 Hindus were forcibly converted. They were slaughtered, their women were raped, their temples were destroyed. In 2 months' time, in October 1921, the Punjab Arya Pradeshik Pratinidhi Sabha, under the leadership of Mahatma Hansraj, you can see his time period, they decided to perform Shuddhi of these people who are converted in Kerala, in Malabar. And Mahatma Hansraj, Pandit Rishiram, Khushahal Chand, all these leaders of the Arya Samaj went to Malabar. They met the people over there. They met the Raja of Calicut. And the Raja of Calicut then summoned a meeting of the Nambudri Brahmins with these Arya Samaj leaders. And as a result, all these people, most of them, most of the 4,000 people who had been converted, they underwent penance and they performed Shuddhi on them. Another organization in the field of Shuddhi was the Akhil Bharat Hindu Mahasabha. And the very first time the Hindu Mahasabha took cognizance of this issue was after the Mopla Jihad in 19 August 1923. Pandit Madan Mohan Malaviya presided over the Hindu Mahasabha session in Kashi or Varanasi. And there was a debate between Orthodox Pandits who were opposed to this idea of reclaiming people back once they had been polluted, so to speak. So Pandit Madan Mohan Malaviya quoted Hindu scriptures. He backed the Shuddhi. There was a severe debate for 3 days. There were a lot of recriminations, but finally the Orthodox Pandits, they finally agreed. The resolution on Shuddhi was introduced in this session of the Hindu Mahasabha. In fact, it was introduced, seconded by the Orthodox Pandits themselves, and it got approved. And all subsequent sessions of the Hindu Mahasabha, there used to be resolutions on Shuddhi, but not just that. The Hindu Mahasabha actually performed Shuddhi on several hundreds of people over the period of years. The greatest or the historic or the most famous Shuddhi, mass Shuddhi to take place is of Malkana Rajputs. Now, please understand, just because you convert a Hindu community, they do not forget all their Hindu practices. So many of them are like half Hindu, half Muslim. They continue with their Hindu names in half. They perform some Hindu practices. Maybe they might perform nikah or they might get buried, but all the other practices are the same. So there were several such half Hindu, half Muslim communities in Uttar Pradesh. For example, the Malkana Rajputs, predominantly in Western Uttar Pradesh. There were similar people like the Mayo Muslims in Rajasthan. There were the Moresalam Rajputs in Gujarat. There were the Pirana in Sindh. So the question was of reclaiming these people. It was easier because they were already practicing some Hindu rituals. So Swami Shraddhanand undertook this process of the Shuddhi of the Malkana Rajputs, who had been converted about 400, 500 years back. And they were predominantly populated in Western Uttar Pradesh. So between 26th of February 1923 to 30th of March 1923, in a matter of a month, with Swami Shraddhanand's initiative, around 7,000 Malkana Rajputs underwent a Shuddhi. And in that 1 year, a total of 30,000 Malkana Rajputs actually underwent Shuddhi. Now, this Shuddhi, of course, was with the initiative of the Arya Samaj, but importantly, it was supported by various caste-based organizations of the Rajputs, the Gujars, and the Jats, because unless you have mass support of caste-based organizations, you cannot assimilate these Shuddhikrut people back into their own caste or their own community. As a result of the Shuddhi efforts of Swami Shraddhanand, a Muslim called Abdul Rashid assassinated him on 23rd December 1926. This is a rare photograph of the last dying moments of Swami Shraddhanand. In Maharashtra, in particular, in Satara, there's a place called Masur. There, Vinayak Maharaj Masurkar founded the Brahmacharya Ashram, which was later on called as the Masurashram. In the Portuguese rule, which started in 1510 in Goa, the Gauda community of Goa had been converted by the Portuguese. What did Vinayak Maharaj Masurkar do? By that time in the 1920s, it was a republic in Portugal. So it was not a monarchy. So things had slightly eased. But what did Vinayak Maharaj Masurkar do? He toured Goa. It was very difficult to do that under Portuguese rule. He aroused the Hindu faith in the Gaudas. He took the approval of the Shankaracharya. And on 26th of February 1928, 1,150 Christian Gaudas underwent Shuddhi in the village of Chimbal in the Tiswadi Tehsil of Goa. And in that whole process, a total of 7,815 Christian Gaudas became Hindus. Masurashram continues its activity even to this day. It continues with its work of Shuddhi.